Hey there, Aubrey. How's it going today?
I'm great. How are you, Lindsay?
Good. Aubrey, what is something that you've done recently that you expected to be fairly hard and then it turned out to be fairly easy?
Ooh,
Or
so I
vice
played,
versa?
yeah,
Yeah.
or vice versa. I played this new game called Board Ball. I had
Mhm.
never heard of it before. It's sort of a volleyball game where there's kind of a flat square board. I think it's pretty new, and you're playing
Mhm.
volleyball with it's just four people, sort of like
Mm.
spike ball but volleyball, and you kind of hit the volleyball and I expected it to be fairly easy. I play
Yep.
volleyball, but it was not.
Uh-huh.
It was fairly
Uh,
hard. It's definitely
uh
kind of different skills, and you're having to move around really quickly. So very fun, but it's fairly hard.
Super interesting. I love that. Yeah, you never know. You never know. Something looks easy, it turns out to be hard.
Exactly. This happens
Um
a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Well, today we're here for part three of a three-part series, but they can be listened to out of order, these episodes, right, Aubrey? Can be in all
Exactly,
different.
right?
Mm-hmm.
We'll give you the names and episode numbers for part 1 and part 2 at the end. So
Mm-hmm.
hit follow, and then you
Mm-hmm.
can definitely listen to these out of order. They're
Mm-hmm.
all about interesting ways. Part 1 was about adjectives, and then part 2 a little more about noun, but they're all related, breaking kind of that rule in English where if you add ly, it should become an adverb and
Yes,
it should be similar to the adjective. That isn't always the case.
I know. So hit the follow button now. And then at the end, like Aubrey said, we'll give you those names. I have heard students make this mistake because we want to assume it seems natural and normal. I would do it in Spanish that we assume, for example, that late and lately carry the same meanings, right?
Exactly. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
today we're sharing the top three adverbs where there is an adjective that exists. And so you would
Mm-hmm.
expect to add ly. This should become an adverb with a similar meaning, like
Yeah,
slow and slowly, right? The
sure.
adjective, the
Yeah.
adverb have very similar meanings. These words, that's not the case. We add ly, it becomes an adverb with a totally different meaning.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, I am excited to get into the three that we're going to highlight today that are really dangerous, right?
Yes.
If we assume the meaning, and not dangerous, but they're just common mistakes,
Common
right?
mistakes, these can trip you up. Yes, I'm excited for you to know about all of these.
Yeah. So let's go into the first one. I mentioned it a few minutes ago, late and lately. Let's talk about it.
Exactly. Yeah. So first, late is an adjective, right? She arrived. It can also be an adverb.
Mm-hmm.
So as an adverb, she arrived late to the meeting and missed the introduction. But
Mm-hmm.
then we add ly, and it has a
Yeah.
very different meaning.
Exactly. And I could say it just means recently, right? The meaning is recent, recently. So, what have you been up to lately? So, I'm not talking about arriving on time here or time. It's just something that happened in the near past.
Exactly. So the pro tip here is when you hear the word lately, every time think recently, in the
Hmm.
recent past, right? You have to forget that the word late has anything to do with late in the day, late time. Lately is not related to the word late. A little
Yeah. And,
tricky.
and a pro tip, this is a really good way to connect this question. It's very simple, but it's really common, right?
Mm.
What have you been up to lately? How have you been lately?
Yes, we ask this a lot, and you could definitely see English learners thinking you mean, maybe what did you do yesterday late at night? Or what are you doing, right? If you hear that
Mm-hmm.
word late and you're used to the adjective, you need to know that lately means recently. It means like maybe
Mm-hmm.
what did you do last weekend? What have you been doing recently? If someone says, what have you been up to lately?
Yes, I love that. All right. So that is the first one that our listeners are no longer going to make this mistake. What would be the next one, Aubrey?
Yeah, the next one is fair and fairly. So, fair is an adjective meaning like light in color. And then it's also used to describe something being just. So, this has a couple
Hmm.
of different meanings, which is tricky. You might say the judge made a fair decision based on the evidence, right? It means it was
Yes.
just.
And when we add an ly, it has nothing to do with justice, right?
Exactly. This is so tricky. It's an adverb that means moderately,
Yeah.
reasonably, right? To a reasonable extent.
Right, which really isn't related to justice. I guess you could make an
Mm.
argument it is, but it's really not.
Mm.
Right. So, for example, the exam was fairly easy, but a few questions were tricky. And people use this a lot fairly. right?
Absolutely, right? We'll
Mhm.
often say pretty too. We're like, "This is pretty easy," right? It was pretty easy. It's fairly easy. But yeah,
Yeah.
this is very different than there are a couple of different meanings for fair, but you
Mhm.
can't assume you add an ly and it has a really similar meaning to fair. It really means closer to moderately, reasonably.
Moderately. Tricky, tricky, tricky. All right. There is a third. And what is it, Aubrey?
Yeah, hard and hardly.
Yeah.
So hard has a couple different meanings, either with effort, right? Difficult, or also solid, right? Hard
Mhm.
ground, solid ground. Like the ground
Mhm.
was hard, so it took me forever to dig a hole to plant flowers. This is the case in Arizona. The ground is
Oh.
rock solid. If you need to dig a
Oh.
hole to plant anything, you're going to be working at digging that hole for a while, soaking the ground.
I found that out. I think it's the same in Utah too. I found that out at Bryce Canyon. I tried to camp there and I tried to
Oh,
put my tent into the ground. I was alone camping on my road trip around the US.
right.
I was like, I don't think I can camp because I can't get these stakes into the ground. It was incredible.
Yeah, you're bent I've bent so many stakes trying to
Yeah.
hammer them into really solid ground, and the stake just bends instead of going into the ground.
How do you even do it? There must be special tents for the West, the
We have
Sun
better
Belt.
stakes, right? It's all
Okay.
about the stakes. Those flimsy, skinny metal
Mhm.
stakes, don't hack it
Mm.
out here.
Don't
We
hack
have
it.
these, like,
You
thick
need sharp
plastic
ones.
ones that
Yeah.
are sharp at the end that will hammer right into the
Ah,
ground.
that's what I needed.
You
Okay,
had those
good to
East
know.
Coast stakes. That
Yeah, I
doesn't
did.
work.
That wet grass, that humid grass, right? Love it.
Yes.
All right, so hard ground, the ground is hard. And then when we use hardly as an adverb, it means scarcely or almost not.
Yeah,
Almost
very
not.
different meaning, right? It has nothing to do with the meaning of the adjective. So, for example, I could hardly hear what he was saying over the noise, which means
Mhm.
I almost couldn't hear. I could
Mm.
barely hear. I could scarcely hear.
Barely, scarcely, hardly. Love those three together, right?
Yes.
Yeah, tricky. All right, we're going to take a break and then we're going to come back and see this in action. Okay. Okay, Aubrey, role play time. We are university students. We're meeting up for coffee, right?
Yes, perfect. We'll see if we
Yes.
can use all of these. All right.
Okay.
Sorry I'm late again.
Oh, no worries. I've come to expect it.
That's fair. I know it's become a pattern. I've been working hard trying to keep up with everything, and sometimes I lose track of time.
I figured you were pretty busy. You hardly respond to texts anymore.
I just have no time. I'm doing fairly well in my classes, but if I let up, I'm not going to pass OChem.
Well, be careful. If all you do is study, you'll feel like you're hardly living.
No.
Yeah.
This is an interesting conversation. We do this sometimes where, um, and this is interesting. Sometimes you'll be trying to give advice, you want to give advice, and then you
Uh-huh.
find that your advice is actually sort of just critical of the choices someone is making. This happens, right? It's
Yeah,
difficult to
it's
not do that.
right, it's a little too direct. Someone else unrelated needs to be giving that advice to you, right? And not
Right.
someone that's kind of like being stood up and waiting waiting for you to
Exactly.
arrive. Yeah, yeah,
It's funny. It's clear that I've been late many times.
yeah.
You're a
Yes.
little testy about it,
I
right? It's
know. There's a
happened
little
too
passive
often.
aggressive tone
Yeah,
there, right?
it's true.
All right, so you started by saying, "Sorry, I'm late." Very, common
Mhm. Sorry,
phrase,
I'm late
right?
again, right? Which means,
Mhm.
like, I was supposed to be on time, I was not. But then
Mhm.
it is interesting, you said, "No worries, I've come to expect it." This is
Yeah.
maybe something I would say to a sister or very
Mhm.
close friends, maybe we're good friends, and you're sort of
Yeah.
being facetious. You're sort of poking fun at me, joking like, "You're always late." You're passive aggressively letting me know, like, this is happening too often, but in
Yeah.
a more lighthearted way than you could do.
Yeah, it's kinda like when something like this happens, you need to call it out in a way. This is a way to do it so you're not being too serious about it, right?
Right. You could
Yeah.
say same old would be another way we would say
Mhm.
like, this is just you. I'm used to it. I
Or
actually
maybe
only
like
got here a minute ago. I gave you a late time."
yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe you said, I'd expect nothing less, right?
Ooh,
"Sorry,
I
I'm
like
late."
that
"Oh,
phrase.
no worries. I'd expect nothing less."
Right? You're just letting him know like I've come to expect you being late and it's not the end of the world.
Exactly. And then so you said, "No worries. I've come to expect it." And you said, "That's fair." Right? I think we've done an episode recently on
Yes,
fair.
we
That's
talked
fair
about this,
maybe?
how, we'll
Yes.
and sometimes we'll just say fair to end, or
Yeah.
fair enough. Yeah, that was a great episode. Scroll up if you missed that one. But this is a
Mhm.
good response, right? When someone's like, I've come to expect it, and you say, that's fair. It means like, that's a fair assessment of my behavior. I'm recognizing I know I've been late a lot, and then now I'm going to give my excuses.
Exactly. And then you said, "I've been working hard trying to keep up with everything, and sometimes I lose track of time.
Yeah, and
Yes.
interestingly, this is a yet another meaning of the word hard, right? We talked about it meaning difficult and also like hard, solid ground. But
Hmm.
this working hard means putting in a lot of effort, like working to an extreme amount, either a lot of time or a lot of effort. It's
Hmm.
another way that we use hard.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And then I said, we're coming in with the hardly here, right? So we said, I figured you were pretty busy. You hardly respond to texts anymore.
Yeah,
Yes,
and this
that means
meaning
never.
barely, almost
Hmm.
never, right? You hardly respond to texts. Maybe I respond to like 1 in 10. So you would say
Yeah.
you hardly respond to texts.
Exactly. And then you said, I have no time. I'm doing fairly well in my classes, meaning moderately well, relatively well, right?
Exactly. But if I let up, I'm not going to pass OChem. That stands for organic
Organic.
chemistry. Some of these, shortcuts that we use for classes, OChem.
Yes, yes. Did you have to take OChem in college,
I did
Aubrey?
not. I've had
Ugh,
like a literary degree, so I did have to
yeah.
take a couple of natural sciences just as part of my general electives, but not OChem. What about you?
Yeah. Oh, no, no, no. I never took organic chemistry. No,
Nice.
thank you. I think it was more for people that were on the pre-med track,
Yep.
science tracks. I took Bio 101, which was hard in college.
It
It was
Yes.
really
I
hard.
had to take Bio 101, and it
Yeah.
was really difficult. I took a geology class that I loved. We did some
Oh.
fun field trips in Utah to,
Oh,
like,
that
look
sounds
at the
really
rocks. Yeah,
cool.
that was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very cool. So then the last line, what did I say, Aubrey?
Yeah, let's see. Well, be careful. If all you do is study, you'll feel like you're hardly living. So that, again,
Mm.
just meaning, like, not much at all, barely. You're barely
Mhm.
living.
Mhm. Love it. Love it. Yeah, so here it's very clear that these do not mean the same thing when we make it an adverb. So just being aware of this is the key to getting to that C1, C2 level, right?
Exactly, right. Yes, I'm so glad we were able to do this series to point out because sometimes you'll think of something as a grammar rule like this. Words that end in ly are usually adverbs. So you might assume
Yes.
they're adverbs, and usually they have a similar meaning to the adjective that's similar, like
Mhm.
slow and slowly. Usually
Mhm.
that's the case, but there are quite a few exceptions. So this series highlighted in part one, it was episode 2444, Grammar That Breaks the Rules, part one, adjectives that end in ly. So this is sometimes we add ly to a word and it's still an adjective.
Oh boy. Oh boy. And then there was 2450 was part 2, grammar that breaks the rules part 2, noun nonsense. I love that title. That is
It was
very
fun, and
good.
this is tricky. This is when we add ly to a word and it actually becomes a noun. So
Oh my
definitely scroll
gosh.
up so you don't miss the part one and two of this series.
All right. And final takeaway, Aubrey, where should we leave our listeners on the series?
Yeah, so I think the pro tip is don't assume that words that end in ly are an adverb
Hmm.
or that they mean exactly what you would expect them to mean because today's three mean something different than you would
Yeah.
expect.
Yeah. We learn these things in context so we fully understand them. We learn them in conversation. And that is the way to really build that connection. All right. Love it.
Absolutely.
So
Awesome.
good. Aubrey, you have a nice rest of your day. I'll see you very soon.
You too. Thanks, Lindsay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.